foreign trade policy, at one time it was called as exim policy, export import. And the act which was called that time was Export Import Control Act before 1991, when we had a system of this license Raj kind of system, right? So government was, basically the idea was to encourage export and control import. So later on, after 1991, it became, so the act was replaced by Foreign Trade Development Act. The name changed. This change is very significant. It shows the approach of the government. Earlier it was the control. Now, after 1991, it was not control. It was the development for both foreign trade. Foreign trade include export as well as import. So it is not a bad idea to import things, because for the growth of the country, import is required. So now the foreign trade policies, what we have, is not a control kind of mechanism. It is just a mechanism to regulate in such a way to meet certain objectives of the country. So they do not want that people should not import. No, people should import. Nowadays, in Diwali, you will find so many things, even non-essential things available from all over the world. In today's world, a country will not be called as modern country if you cannot get consumer goods manufactured in different countries. Nowadays, your edible oil, pomace oil or virgin olive oil, they are coming made in Spain, made in Italy, it is happening, right? So nowadays, products are available from all over the world. That's why we say that we are a developed country. We are trying to become a developed country. Everything is available, right? We have got all iPhone and everything. So it cannot happen. It would not happen that with that Export Import Control Act. No. Now it is Foreign Trade Development Act, which means the idea of this foreign trade policy is to develop both export as well as import. And it does not mean that we have to encourage that people should import. No, that's not the idea. Just the idea that whatever is good for the country should happen. And the only concern would be that there is not a very big difference between export and import. Otherwise, we will have a problem of balance of payment. Right? If the import is too much and export is bigger, then we are having big trouble, because ultimately that gap is in foreign exchange. And if you are not able to earn that foreign exchange, then how will you manage it? And probably you already know that already we have imports which are much higher than, reasonably higher than our exports. So that gap is filled by remittances. And what is the remittance? Mainly remittance. And that is the people Indians who are working abroad, they send money in foreign exchange. Right? That is called remittance. So whatever we are enjoying in terms of imports, like chocolates or cookies or iPhones, is in a major context, it is coming from, it is happening because our Indians are working abroad and they are sending money back home. Right? If we would have totally depended on export import only, if that money was not coming, probably government would not have allowed many of the items to import. Otherwise, we cannot meet. So nowadays, what is happening? If you think that something can be imported, please import as per the policy. Because now, earlier there was item wise that you can import this thing, you cannot import like. Nowadays, it is just a negative list. This is the item of negative list of items which are negative list. Those are only restricted. Otherwise, everything else is in OGL, Open General License. So if it is in OGL, no, in any case, government cannot stop it. Only thing that government can regulate little bit through tariff barriers or non-tariff barriers. Non-tariff barriers will be protested by WTO. They will not be tolerated by WTO. Non-tariff. Tariff barriers, again, you already have committed with the WTO that you will not go beyond certain limit. So ultimately, what is happening today? Maybe price is higher, but everything is available, right? And when everything is available, of course, it is a market forces, and import can go anywhere, but export also is not necessarily that we will reach that level. So that gap is always there, and that gap is cleared by the remittances which is coming from Indians working abroad. So we should thank them. We should thank them. Actually, we should be very thankful to our NRIs and PIOs, Indian diaspora, which is located in all over the world, and they send money. They still remember us. That's why all this Pravasi Bharatiya Divas, these are very important things. We don't realize it, but at the end of the day, we are having a good life mainly because of these people. Otherwise, you will not see such a good living standards. It's not possible. In that case, government will have to impose certain restrictions. You cannot import this thing at all. Nowadays, you can even import cars. Right? I just share with you, I remember way back in 97, when actually the reforms are already started, right? I was in Czech Republic, Prague, and I happened to, it just so happened that I was received by Skoda car, right? So by that time, I was working for a company, and I never thought that why should I meet Skoda? Skoda is a big company, but why should I meet it? The person came to the airport to receive me. I was so surprised, but I had to do some other things. So I said, okay, he's coming. I'll go with him. I have nothing to do with Skoda, right? Why? Because we never thought that these cars can be imported. In 97, I'm saying. Probably it was our mistake. The reforms had started, and we were not realizing that we are entering into that era where Skoda actually can come to India, right? We had not realized. So it so happened that he said, okay, when are you free and all? So I said, 1 or 2 days I have a job, then I can come to your office. And I went to her office, I spent the whole day, and I was convinced with Skoda company that you become our sole distributor in India and will supply Skoda in India. So, although I was skeptical then, but what he's told me, he said that he has definite information that government is coming out with new policies and all, and the cars will be. So I just called up my MD in the night. Sir, I have something to tell you, sir. This is a very good deal. Skoda, we can become the sole distributor of Skoda in India. This is the right time. He said, are you foolish? He fought with me. It can never happen in India. India is like this, India is that. I said, no sir, things are changing, this. And I could not convince him. They said, I actually fought like anything. Okay. Then I had some other things which I did and came back to India. After coming to India also I fought with him. Sir, no. He says that I don't have the information how Skoda has the information in the moment. I said, no sir, they are very big companies. They have very big professionals. They understand better than us. But he was not convinced. Finally, we sent a letter that we are not interested. Right? Within 3 months, the policy came. And that deal was taken over by somebody else. So I said to my MD, sir, this is how you lose money. This is how you lose business. It just came. I never contacted Skoda. Through some contact, these people came to know that I'm coming from India and I belong to this company. So they contacted with me, and they would have agreed on all our terms. Because I had not contacted them, they were contacting me, right? So it was a bargain in power, right? So I said, sir, you have really lost. If you would have agreed with me, or you would have come down to Prague that day, you would have sat with me, you would have been convinced. Because I was convinced that the demo and all the presentation which they did, I was convinced that they cannot be wrong. If they have spent so much of money, it must be based on some information, right? Maybe some, whatever way they got the information, I really don't know. I mean, now we know how the information reaches, right? Yeah, now we know. But Indians did not know that it happens like that. It was so common, right, for these companies. But anyhow, this is what I was trying to tell you. That foreign trade policy actually had changed, but we did not realize. The mood of the government had been changing with this, but the industry did not realize. Even till 97, reforms had started in 91. Till 97, we did not realize that all the toffees and chocolates and Skodas and Audis and everything will be in India. We did not realize. It happened actually in 98, starting mid 98. all these things suddenly became OGL category. Then it had to come in OGL, right? So all these items are not part of negative list. But till when we were discussing this, it was in negative list. That is the problem. Negative list, it was bad. It was not allowed, right? Afterward, negative list came and it was very few items. Everything else was in OGL. That changed whole the game, all the game, right? So I was just trying to give you a background of this fund rate policy. It was like that, and since then we are having a 5-year integrated foreign trade policy. 5-year integrated foreign trade policies. We already had policy 2004, 2005, then 2005, 2009, 2014. Now, April 2014, new policy had to come, but it did not. So then it was decided that new government will come, they will come out with the policy. But what happened? New government, when they came to power, they realized that this policy which was made by UP government was just a copy of the same policy, right? Nothing new. So now what the new government is doing, as per my understanding and my information, they are rewriting the whole policy. It's not that they are changing everything, no, they are not changing everything, but they are rewriting with a new vision, with all the programs which government has, including Make in India, including Swachh Bharat, right? Including the changing geopolitical scenario in Indian Ocean, our neighboring countries like SAARC countries or even China. So our relationship, our strategies are changing. So what they are trying to do, the same provisions which were already there, they are not going to change the provision, but they are rewriting, they are modifying everything in the policy to match with the new realities. Schemes will be same. The same schemes will be re-energized. Something will be given more importance, something will be given less importance, right? Like for example, there is a provision always in the policy to promote capital goods to enter into India through a scheme called EPC, Export Promotion Capital Goods Scheme, right? Wherein you don't have to pay any import duty, but you have to give an undertaking that in next 3 to 4 years, whatever is depending on the item, you will export 3 or 4 times the value of the equipment. Using that equipment, you will export goods in next 3-4 years. The value of the items manufactured with that machine to outside India. So you give a undertaking, right? That's a very good scheme. The advantage is that you're not paying any import duty, right? Now that, for example, if you have to make in India program, the mission is Make in India. So the biggest requirement is capital goods. All the companies of the world, if they want to make in India, they will have to, what the main thing they have to bring? They have to bring technology and the latest machines. So one of the biggest changes which you will see in the coming policy will be on the EPC scheme. For example, just an example, right? So what is happening? These policies are made like that, 5-year. 5-year means, why it is 5-year? So that at least for 5 years people know that this policy will remain like this and the main provision will be like this, right? But every year they come out with some changes, annual changes, but they are minor changes. This has been the practice. But now in the new Modi government, I really don't know what actually is going to happen. Maybe every year they will come out with major changes or what, I don't know. But normally it is not expected. It is not good for the business also. That you bring fast changes every year, right? So that's why it is kept as 5-year policy. 5-year integrated policy. Okay? Union Commerce Ministry, Government of India announces the integrated foreign trade policy in every 5 years. This is also called EXIM policy, export-import policy. But that was the name used earlier, before 91. But people still use this word. This policy is updated every year with some modifications and new schemes. New schemes come into effect on the first day of financial year, that is April 1. So which means even the integrated policy should have come April 2014, but it did not come. Present FTP is 2009-14 integrated FTP. New FTP was to be announced last year, but has not yet been announced. I told you the reasons. The underlying long-term objective of any foreign trade policy, we have to first understand what actually is the approach of FTP, then we will understand that what is coming in FTP. Is to promote exports and increase India's competitiveness globally, leading to employment generation, particularly in the labor-intensive sectors. This is the very broad macro perspective of any foreign trade policy. Objective common to both the old and new policies is to double India's exports in any given 5 years. Like for example, presently the India's share in the world trade is 2.07%, right? I told you, China is 11%. So here gap is very big, right? So when the new policy comes, if we use the legacy of the past, then the objective will be that in next 5 years it should become 4.2. But I am expecting Modi government will give a better target. Instead of 4.2, personally I feel he will have a target of 5 plus, and which is achievable. It's not difficult. Obviously. See, up till now we were talking about 2, double and double, and we were not able to make it double. We were generally able to increase 70-80%, right? But my view, personally, I feel this time, for the first time in the history of India, it is not be double. It will be at least 2.5 times, or maybe more, right? That will be the objective, and the whole policy will be framed like that only, to how to achieve that target, right? So what will happen in that case? Either it will be 2014-2019 policy, or it will be 2015-2020. So I think it will be till 2020. I think personally they will change the name now. Instead of 14-19, they will make it 15-20. So personally I feel they will have a target of at least 2.5 times. So that by 2020 our share in the world trade is at least 5-6%. I think that will be the target, and that is not difficult at all. The way Modi works, it is not difficult, right? So this is the thing. And another objective of the policy is also simplification of the process. And this is the reason why all this EDI system, electronic data interface, all this thing came from the policies only. EBRC, or doing away with that document, or as I told you, that whatever we have been discussing is very logical. Wherever there is anything illogical is removed. Now, what is the mechanism of understanding what is required and what is not required? How this policy is made? I'll be in fact discussing that infrastructure, but I'm just giving you just an overview. It is actually what happens, how the policy is made. I just want to explain to you. India has got a lot of export promotion councils, EPCs. Every product there is a EPC, Export Promotion Council. They understand the challenges and opportunities and weaknesses and strengths of their sector. Like PLEX Council, Plastics Export Promotion Council, right? They know stationery manufacturer, they know toy manufacturer, they understand what are the problems, what is the problem faced by these people in exports. Or for example, as Nirveji was asking me about the liquid cargo. So this will come under, I think CAPEXIL. Your product should come, I think, CAPEXIL, Chemicals and Allied Products Export Promotion Council. In fact, there are two councils. One is CAPEXIL, Chemicals Export Council, and second is CAPEXIL. There are two different councils. And probably I think your product will come in CAPEXIL, not in CAPEXIL. CAPEXIL is hardcore chemicals, and CAPEXIL is chemicals and allied products. So there is a difference. So all the councils, they are based, what they are council, they are the touch points with the exporters. on behalf of government. Touch point means just to help. And you need to have again a document which I forgot to discuss, RCMC, registration cum membership certificate, without which you cannot claim incentives. All the duty drawback and all the incentives which I told you the government has to give you back. You have to have RCMC, registration cum membership certificate of these councils, right? So these councils come out every year. They come out with the they do meetings, they do representations, of these all the manufacturers, and they come out with their problems, specific problems, micro level problems, right? And they come out with the problems. They also come out with the opportunity. They also come out with suggestions. All the councils, they come out with every year. Every 6 months they create the document, and every year they submit it to the government, right? And now they have been doing a very major job because the whole integrated policy has to come. So they have all prepared. By 2013 they had already finished that activity, right? Along with them, FIO, Federation of Indian Exporter Organization, CII, right? APEDA, MPEDA, coffee boards. There are certain items which are not covered by EPC. Those people also has to give their voice because their product does not fall on any of the councils, right? Like coffee, tea, it doesn't fall in any EPCs. So they have their own dependent body that is like coffee board or tea board, right? They function in the same way, and they also get the same benefit from the government like the EPCs, right? And then there are common organizations like Federation of Indian Exporter Organization or FICCI, Federation of Indian Chamber, Federation of Indian Chamber of Commerce of India, FICCI, CII. All these people, they have their own rules and functions. They are all touch points. There are touch points with the people on the grassroots, and they come out with all the difficulties, challenges, discrepancies, and they feed it to DGFT. Not really DGFT. DGFT, I'll tell you, is not but it can go via DGFT also. But I'll tell you what is the role of DGFT when we come to that part. But basically, they feed it to DOC, Department of Commerce. Basically, it is the role of DOC. What is the role of DOC, Department of Commerce? It is under Ministry of Commerce, right? DOC. One of the division of DOC deals with the foreign trade. One division of DOC. Department of Commerce is for the commerce of the whole country, right? Their job is to make policies, all kinds of policies. And one of the division of DSV is concerned with the foreign trade policy, right? So all these sessions, difficulties, discrepancies, anomalies, concerns, all come to DOC directly or via DGFT. Now let me tell you what is the role of DGFT. Just tell you. So DOC makes the policy. Whatever the policy DOC makes under the Ministry of Commerce, it is implemented by DGFT. That policy. The job of DGFT is to make sure that people follow that policy only, right? Whether it relates to some schemes like EPC scheme or some product specific scheme or market schemes. The schemes are of different types. I'll discuss what are the different types of schemes. Or it can also be status holders, like somebody is a export house, somebody is a trading house, somebody is a star trading house. So those status are given based on the performance, their performance in the past 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, right? Past performance in exports. You get the status, and the status people get extra incentives and freedom to work, right? Right? So these status holders enjoy many privileges in the international business, right? Because of their status. And this status is an official status. All these are part of foreign trade policy. The meaning of the status changes with the policy, meaning of the scheme changes with policy. The job of DGFT is to ensure that all these things changes with the change of policy. You're talking about that HS code thing. Probably there are two things you can get help. You can also check this HS code with your EPC, Export Promotion Council. They will also help you. Yeah, Capexil. And I think Capexil Delhi office is in Gold Market on Bhai Mati Das Road, right?
For each product there is a separate council for each.
No, every council has a list of products, right? Like for example, IT software exports. There is no EPC actually. It is NASCOM, right? EEPC, Engineering Export Promotion Council, EEPC, for engineering goods, light engineering goods. So there are different, okay. Then Carpet Export Promotion Council is there separate. Carpet and handloom. Then there is a apparel Export Promotion Council, apparel, ready-made garments. There is separate. So need based. Because garment is such a big industry, they require a separate council. So separate. Carpets and handloom, they require, right? Handloom and Carpet Export Promotion Council. There is a separate. EPC is in Deutscher Mark. EPC. And Apparel Export Promotion Council also is in near that only, in CP. So they have offices all over India at different places wherever it is necessary, right? Where there is a big concentration of exporters, obviously. So you have to check. Probably it is Capexil. In your case, should be Capexil, as per my understanding.
It's basically biogas. The product we are talking about, it's a biogas.
Okay.
According to hydrogenated biobasis gasoline.
Okay.
Globally, it's traded in the name of biogas.
So I think
Which benzene has a major constituency.
okay.
More than 50-60% is benzene.
So let me check. I think I think it should be Capexil. That is easy to check. Even on the online you can check. Right? It's not difficult. That's okay. So you go to the ID. Now coming the main part of these policies, typical element is the different schemes, because that is what matters basically, right? Let me make you understand. Any typical foreign trade policy has got two categories of schemes. Can you tell me logically? Suppose you are told that you make a policy of India. Which is the two major category you will divide the schemes? What are the two major areas of treatment to meet those objectives? Increase export and do this, make our export competitive, all those things. Can somebody tell me? What will be the different areas, two different areas, which I will divide my schemes in this from a business sense? Just think about it. It's not difficult.
More on the getting the foreign currency.
No, that we know. That we know the objectives. See, when you make any policy, even your company policy, you first write down the vision, mission statement, you write down the goals and objectives, and then you create a strategy. What is strategy? Strategy is basically these schemes, right? In a strategy management, right? So what are the two major categories where you will like to divide your schemes in such a scenario? What are these simple things? Can somebody tell me? These are the areas where government can do something. Can you tell me one thing? Do you really think that government can get you specific orders? Can government help you? That you have to put the efforts. Suppose if you go to foreign country, suppose you want to export your handicrafts. Do you think that government will get you order? No, they cannot. they can create an environment for you to facilitate opportunities. They can create an environment where their opportunities are there, but these opportunities has to be exploited by you only, right? So government will work only in those areas where they can do something, right? Can the Indian legal system make sure that in India there is no murder? People will do murder, but they can create an environment of fear that people don't do murder, right? So any policies, the idea is to create an environment or to create an infrastructure in such a way that they can do something, right? And these two things are two categories. Two categories. Now, what is the meaning of this? Any export-import business which happens from India, foreign trade, there is one demand side and there is a supply side. Now, what is the difference? Can you tell me? Now, I have already told you two categories. One is the demand side and one is the supply side. Can you tell me, from the policy point of view, what are the things which are covered in demand side and what are the things which are covered in supply side from an exporter point of view mainly from the exporter point of view? Importer, like importer, what Indian government can do for importers, really? Because if you need something, you will definitely get it, So basically this policy should not really have, first of all, there will be no schemes for import. All the schemes will be for export only. The idea is to promote export, right? In import, government can create some way where you are able to source material at a cheaper price. That's at the most. They can have some organization which will help you to source material at a very competitive price. More than that, government cannot do. But unfortunately, in India, we do not have. There should be such. In the foreign trade policy, there should be some provision of creating an organization wherein they should provide facilities for importers to source goods at a cheaper price, because Indian government will save money, obviously. But it is not there. It should be there, right? So whatever the schemes are basically for exports, right? So these are, but I'm talking from the export point of view. Now, what is demand side and what is supply side? What is the meaning of this? Can you think of? Can you give me some comments on this? What will be the meaning of this? Gaurav, you should be able to tell, because you are in that process now. You want to set up a handicrafts business, right? What is the things which you think that they are the demand side thing, and what are the things which you think
from the government?
No, in a normal business, export business, you do a lot of activities. Tell me, what are the activities you do as an exporter? Nirbhayji, you tell me, because you are now entering into this. What are the activities the exporter does? Tell me. IC को dump लेता है. He do all the documentation. He does that all that. He tried to get a lot of knowledge. What else does he?
Identifying the market.
He identifies the market, right?
Potential of the market.
And he also do something. He visit these countries. He also visit some trade fairs, right? Correct? And he also tries to feel, when he go abroad, that there is somebody who should create a good name for the country, so that he will be well received, he will be welcomed, which is not in your hand, but you think that it should be in somebody's hand, right? And when he comes back to India, he prepares the goods, and when he prepares the good, he realizes these materials are not available, the land is not available, right? The documentation and procedure is very difficult. There is a lot of corruption. Then he says that roads are very poor, electricity is not coming 24 hours, my job is delayed, right? All those things are supply side. And all those things which he is talking about, that creating a good name for the country, trade fairs, he should be able to get stall in the trade fair at a half price or cheaper price. All those are demand side, right? Correct? There are some things which are categorized as demand side, there is something which are categorized as supply side. So when you supply the material, when you file the application shipping bill, when you file, try to understand LC, you go to deal with the banks. When you want to get electricity, when you want to deal with the excise department, when you transport your goods from your factory to the port, and when you go to the port, there is a, handling machines are there, and it is very easy to get clearance. All these are demand supply side, right? Right or wrong? So all the activities which an exporter does, or the group of exporter does, there are certain activities which are demand side, and there are certain activities which are supply side. So this policy has got two categories of schemes. One is the demand side schemes, and second is the supply side schemes. Right? And what are these schemes? The typical ones I will tell. For example, in demand side, government cannot do much, because ultimately order has to be generated by you. Right? Can government really do something? But there is something which government can do. It can have a very good name for the India in the international market. Right? It can have a good name. Can you have a good name for the country as an individual? No. Can you create a good name? Can you advertise India? You advertise your company. Why will you advertise India? But to advertise India, that Indian government should do. So they have a scheme called MAI, Market Access Initiative. You should be able to access market. Access market means it should become easy for you to access market. Right? How the government will do this? How will government will ensure that you are able to access the market? So what government will do? You get a RCMC from the EPC, and you go to EPC. You say that I am new. Like for example, your case, you take a RCMC and you say to your EPC, I am a new person, and I am trying to set up my business, handicrafts, but I am finding difficult to get the market access. Why? Because to get a market access, I have to visit those countries. I have to participate in a trade fair, and it costs a lot of money. So can you help me? So EPC will say, yes, we have a market access initiative scheme by Government of India. So as a new member of the EPC, you go abroad, you do study, you study the market, you participate in trade fairs, half the money will be given by Government of India. Half the money will be given by Government of India. There is a scheme, right? You should get a RCMC for that. As a new member, you can get this benefit of this.
RCMC can be obtained from EPC.
Yeah, you have to pay some 10,000, 11,000 rupees for RCMC. 1,000. Yeah, first time you have to give more, but later you have to give 1,000 rupees. Right? So RCMC you get, the moment you become member, you go there. And you can go there anytime. They will work like a consultant for you. They will give you free consultancy. But of course they are government people. So you know how much they can give. But whatever they can give, they will give you. But the best thing they will give you this money. Half the money. And the most easy thing to get is trade fair. 50% concession in trade fairs, participation. Right? So what do? You go to ITPO, Indian Trade Promotion Organization, which has the office in Pragatinga, ITPO. So ITPO has already booked the whole year, major trade fairs all over the world. So they already booked pavilions, whole pavilions, and they give you stalls only for Indians, right? It is already half the price already. The normal price, if you want to have a stall outside Indian pavilion, it will be double the price. If you want it from ITPO, it is already half. And whatever the amount you are spending, even half of that you will get from this scheme. Very good. Very good. I have utilized it many times. In my career, I have utilized this amount many times for my company. Right?
They also pay for Airtel also.
Everything. 50%. They have a list of items, so they will pay you half the money. Definitely, as a newcomer, they will definitely give you. Because you are a newcomer, still don't have any business. So this is the scheme for the newcomers, right? Okay. And this money comes from MDA, Market Development Assistance. Government has a fund. It comes from MDA, Market Development Assistance. In fact, these are two schemes, 1 and 2, and the money comes from the same fund, right? So you please check up. For trade fair, I think, for example, it is MDA. For your study tool, research study, it is from MA, like that. It's like that. So that you will check from the EPC. They will tell you. So that is one part of it. The third scheme is to improve the name of India in the world. So what Indian government does, they do a lot of street shows, cultural shows, telling about India, telling about Indian products. So they display samples. That is the exhibitions for India only. So they are organized by Indians only. They are organized by ITPO, and idea is to give a good name for India. Right? It is called Market Equity Fund. It comes under Market Equity Fund. So basically, what they are doing, they are improving the market equity for India as a brand India initiative. It is also called BIA, Brand India Initiative, BIA. It is also BIA, Brand India Initiative. It is called. There are two schemes: Market Equity and Brand India Initiative. The idea is to improve the equity of India in the market, and other is Brand India Initiative to improve the Indian brand. So they have different set of activities in this scheme and set of activities in this scheme, right? So there is nothing much which can be done on the demand side by Indian. This is the maximum probably government can do. But now they have come up with new ideas, some very new innovative ideas. One of the ideas I'll tell you, that is a fourth scheme which has come, is overseas warehouses. Overseas warehouses. What are these overseas warehouses? Have you heard about it? Overseas warehouses. In overseas warehouses, your respective EPC, whatever is, like in your case, handicrafts, handloom and handicrafts, in your case, Capex, they have been given funds by Indian government to lease custom bonded warehouses abroad in the main countries. In the countries where maximum goods under your council goes. Right? Like for example, in your case, handicrafts maximum goes to Germany or to Italy, So what government has told that please have custom bonded warehouse leased there. Lease them. And offer this facility of warehousing to your members who have got RCLC. Right? Now what is the benefit of this? What is the benefit? Can you tell me what is the benefit? If they give you this warehousing facility, custom bonded in those countries, can you tell me what is that? What is the benefit?
Kind of Incoterms accordingly, first part will get to
How? See, ultimately, even if you bring those goods to that warehouse, all the expenses are same. You touch like this or like this, same thing. Ultimately, there is no such advantage. What you are saying.
You can have a distribution network over there, post
by having this warehousing. Yeah, I agree with you that you can plan it better. That is one. But there is another big advantage. you can do stock and sale. Now, what is the advantage of stock and sale? You already knows, even your counsel will help you, that there are certain items which are fast selling items. But you do not get a very good price because the buyer gets that material in 1 month or maybe 2 months. He has to wait, he has to block his money. You know, the biggest problem with the buyer is today there is a requirement, but he does not know whether the requirement will be there or he doesn't know. Right? If you can find a way where you can offer a delivery of 7 days or less, suppose he is ready to pay 20-25% extra. He says, no problem, charge me 25% extra, but I want delivery in 7 days. Right? So what is the scheme? What you do, you take your goods and get a very concessional price, this warehousing facility from your EPC, which is custom bonded, which means you don't need to clear the goods. No need to clear don't need to pay any duty. Just put it there. When you get the order, then only you remove and pay the duty and get 25-30% extra price. Isn't it a very good facility? Got it? And you are getting this warehousing at a very fraction of the price because of the government initiative. Again, it is demand side. Right? So you will find many such schemes under demand side, innovative schemes. What you have to do, you have to be in touch with your EPC. They will tell you. There may be small such things, but these are the major things which I have told you. And there are various other schemes which are supply side, like EPCG. What is EPCG? You bring goods duty free and give undertaking that in next 3 or 4 years you will export 2 times or 3 times the value of the machine. Right? That is the supply side. And Town of Excellence scheme. That Panipat is a town where there are a lot of exporters. So it's a town of excellence. So town of excellence will get extra funds to improve its infrastructure for exports. Like for example, SEZ also can be, but mainly training centers. Like leather and shoes designs institute is there. You know.
Yes, sir.
Right? That is that. Yeah, they have branches in town of excellence where the exporters of those items are there, right? So you will get extra funds. So you can set up that institute. Government will set up free of cost from that fund because you are a town of excellence. That facility is available. Or electricity will be available cheaper because you are a town of excellence, right? Or there is some government facility which will be provided to make your life easy. Or there will be a pooled marketing company which will small exporters are there, so they will do marketing for you in a big order, like they will pool the production and will market in bulk quantity your items. So all those facilities government will provide. That NCB, because you need people. Can you really employ marketing people? You cannot, because they are a small company. But government will have a common marketing organization where there will be staff and the salary will be paid by government. So all these schemes come under supply side. These can be geographic specific, they can be product specific, correct? Like that. Now there is another major scheme in demand side, that these are market linked schemes. Market linked scheme. MFS, market focus schemes. And there are market linked product focus scheme also. There are 2 kinds of schemes. One is the market focus scheme, second is the product focus scheme. Then there is a combination of both. Market linked product focus scheme. These are the new ideas which the new policies are having. Now there are 3 categories of scheme. One is the market focus scheme, second is the product focus scheme, and third is the market linked product focus scheme. Now what is the meaning of this? I'll just explain to you. What is the meaning of this? Let us start with market focus scheme. In MFS, market focus scheme, government will give you some extra benefit if in last 3 years your exports are to a particular country, particular market which is a focus market. Like for example, Africa. Because Africa is a future market. So Indian government want that more and more people start doing exports to Africa now for the future benefit, right? So government will give you extra incentive if your exports are to Africa. So you will get some extra incentive. You should know what it is. It keep on changing. That is called MFS, market focus. Now there is a supply side scheme, that is product focus scheme. Product focus, PFS. Product focus scheme. What is the meaning of that? If you, whatever you export, if a PDF category item is there and there is a certain amount of, if you cross that amount of that export in last 3 years, you will get some extra incentive. Right? They are encouraging the export of that particular product category. Okay? Now there is a third scheme which is a mix of demand side and supply side. That is market MLFS, MLPS, sorry. Market linked product focus scheme. What is the meaning of this? A particular product, a particular market if you export, if it is there, you will get even extra benefit. You got it? You heard of these 3 categories. One is the market focus scheme, second is the product focus scheme, the third is market focus product linked scheme, which means there is a focus to a market for a particular product. If you do that, you will get double benefit, extra benefit, right? Okay? So now you have understood what actually is there all the time in this foreign trade policy. These are the things. In the same thing in some other words will be put somewhere or there. It will be categorized and it will be there. What simplification of procedures? That from now on you do not need to do this, you do not do, and all those simplifications and improvement comes from the suggestions by the EPCs, right? Now I think it is clear. So this is basically the idea of foreign trade policy. The foreign trade policy is mix of all these things. But you will find everything is either demand side, everything is either supply side. Everything you will find in these 2 categories. Okay? So for example, 2009-14 scheme, short-term objective was to stop and reverse declining trend of exports. That was the situation there because the exports were declining that time. Both the long and short-term objective of the policy are to be achieved through number 1, improvement related to exports, transaction cost reduction. These are all supply side. Can you see this? And providing full refund of all indirect taxes and levies. Again, supply side. You know, excise, removal of goods under excise, under rebate, under bond, refund, duty drawback, refund, all these things. All these schemes will be there. That we already know. That will be always there. But to a limit. Because WTO is sitting. Big brother is watching. You cannot go overboard. You can only give what actually you have taken. You cannot give more, right? And obviously government cannot give more. At least our government cannot give. They don't have that money, obviously. So typical approach of any foreign trade policy is introducing new measures and maintaining status quo in the interest of international traders from India while complying with the WTO agreements. That is the idea. Under the WTO agreements, whatever benefit you can provide on supply side, or to reduce the transaction cost, right? The ultimate idea is to make, we were talking about yesterday, 1.8 lakh for the sea freight and truck charges, and that is what? Transaction cost. And then there are port charges also. That is our transaction cost. So by having some schemes, if you can reduce that cost for the exporters, it is good, right? These measures are mainly supply side measures or demand side measures. This I have already done. Okay? The FTP also has special initiatives in the following areas. Market diversification. I told you that if you export to Africa, you will get extra benefit. If you export to Australia, you will now Australia will be a focus. So Australia will become a focus country, for example, right? Especially for IT exports. So I'm expecting there will be a lot of schemes for Australia actually. Earlier it was mainly for Africa and some of these countries, but now Modi is getting very comfortable with Australia. So there will be some schemes for Australia. If you export to Australia, you will get some extra incentive. So diversification, right? So you should not depend on, for example, India is quite dependent on US, on IT services. One fine day, some policy change in US, the whole industry will be shattering. So it is in the interest of the country that there should be market diversification. That's why these incentives are there. And WTO says no. If some purpose is solved properly, it is not a subsidy. You can give. But those incentives are very, very small. If they give you more, then WTO will create problem. Right? But good enough to encourage you. Right? Technological upgradation, like EPC scheme. Bring high-tech machinery without paying any duty and use it for exports. Right? Support to status holder, start trading house, export house. They will get a lot of autonomy. You can have foreign currency account. You can have a foreign account also. Status holders can have. In Switzerland, they can have, in Switzerland they can have account legally. Right? Why? Because they are exporters. They are doing export in such a big way. They need some account outside India also, right? So, but there is a limit. You can have 5%, like the money which is to come from India, 5% of that you can retain there. So RBI will also not mind. Otherwise, RBI will say your IC government is blacklisted, right? Another thing, if you are a status holder, normally it's 180 days. Probably they will give extra time. Okay, no problem. You bring the money even later. Will not blacklist you because you are a status holder. You are a trading house, right? So these are the things to encourage people to export more and more. Not bad. Not bad. See, how does it matter if you are giving 90 days extra to a state trading house so that to make his life easy? What is the harm? Right? But that you don't give to everybody. You give to some specific companies who are doing a very good job. Status holders, right? Then green purse, encouraging green exports. So export something which is environment friendly will give you some incentive. The WTO will also not mind because you are improving the world living standard and so WTO will say no problem, right? And then export products from Northeast. So here again now it's a political. This is political because Northeast is a problem for us from the Chinese point of view. Like Arunachal Pradesh, these are the states which want to separate from India. They want to separate, like Kashmir. So there is a scheme that if you export from these products of these states, there will be some incentives. Now it is neither supply side nor demand side. Now these kind of things are coming, which are political in nature. I don't know. Modi government will come out some policy. If you export the items from BJP ruled states, you will get some etc. That can happen. Up till now it is not there, but God knows. Then there will be new categories of measures. But up till now they are not there. Right? So these are the things. Provides fiscal incentives including those related to interest subsidy, packing credit. I told you pre-shipment credit. It is also called packing credit. I told you 3-4% you can get loan against LC. 80% of the LC you can get a loan. And the interest rate is 3-4%. Why the bank will give you 3-4%? So government will say how much you are losing, we will pay you. No problem. So whatever is the loss of the bank is paid by the Indian government. Subsidy. WTO says no problem. Because why WTO says you can give this money? Because WTO says that you are bringing the equal level playing field. Because the Chinese people get for 3-4%, Americans get for 3-4%, Japanese get for 2% only, or 1%. Right? So why Indian exporter should give 18%, 16% interest rate? How will they export? Right? So WTO says no problem. You can give. It's a WTO compliant. Then duty utilization scheme. Like import duties. Indirectly, I told you the example of shirt. You got buttons, you have got bukram, you have got thread, you have got dice. So you have paid some duties. So neutralize that, indirect duties, duty drawback. This is nothing but duty drawback. All other schemes have been stopped. DPB was the main scheme. Duty Entitlement Passbook Scheme, that was a major scheme. But that WTO has stopped. DPB is no more. So it is only now duty drawback. Right? So every item has got some percentage, like shirts, 15%, bicycles, 20%, like that. So you will get this back. That's a rough calculation. But it is compliant to WTO. WTO says, yes, it is possible. In cycles, bicycles, there metal is there, this is there. So 20% is okay. Shirts, 15% is okay, like that. So this some 30% is there. Got it? It's very clear. So these are the ways. 1419 I have already told you. You can read that article which I told you. Right? It was supposed to be announced in 2014. Is likely to be announced in April 2015. Main emphasis is likely to be on enhancing exports, trade expansion, doubling or tripling, whatever. It will be more than doubling, I think. Economic growth of the country. Right? Employment generation, reducing CAD, current account deficit, encouraging Make in India mission, boost to services exports, IT services like IT services. FIO has given this suggestion last year only, that the new scheme should have strong focus on services exports. That they will have to do. Because India's GDP, more than 55% is services. So the same percentage should be there in export also, na? Isn't it? So government has to give schemes for services exports. So that will be one of the major areas, that likely to be major area in the coming policy. Okay, that FTP is foreign trade policy, EPCG is export promotion, capital goods, FMS is focus market scheme, FPS is focus product scheme, MLFPS market link focus product scheme. This I told you, 3 things I told you. VKGUI Vishesh Krishi and Gram Upaj Yojana. I have told you market development scheme, MDA, I have told you, right? Then MEI market access initiative, TEE Town of Export Excellence scheme. You know, the abbreviations, but you will understand that these are the common initiatives. EOU export oriented units, STPI Software Technology Park of India, ECGC Export Credit Guarantee Corporation. I will discuss it separately. You know, that is also a very good scheme. That is, let me give you a very short description about it. That is for the commercial risk. Like you have an insurance company for the marine cargo insurance, that is a transportation risk. I told you 3 risks are there: transportation risk, financial risk, foreign exchange fluctuation, and third is the commercial risk, like non-payment or some risk. Your money does not come. So what you have to do? There is a scheme of government. You can get a ECGC cover, Export Credit Guarantee Corporation cover. Now there is two benefits of this. One benefit is you will get the money if your money does not come. Second benefit is you will save yourself from blacklisting from RBI. If the money does not come, RBI will blacklist you. You will say, sir, what I will do if the money is not coming, the person is not paying. If you do not have a ECGC scheme, your IEC code number will be blacklisted. But if you have a ECGC scheme, this is a exception. Exception is given that if you have a ECC cover, this exemption is given. Your IC code number will not be blacklisted. Because you have done a good job by using this scheme. You safeguarded yourself.
What's the system?
Export Credit Guarantee Corporation. It is an organization. It is run by Indian government. So if you export something to anywhere in the world, they will give you a cover. But not for every buyer. No. They have their own method of checking. One more thing. There is another third benefit of ECC. If ECC give you a cover, if the ECC give you a cover, it means that buyer is good. There is no risk. Otherwise, there is no way to check. But they know how to check. Because ECC has a network of similar organization all over the world. So they share their data. Intelligence report. Right? Of every buyer. Every major buyer. And even if the report is not there, they very easily find out. By their own network. Right? So if they are giving you the cover, it means they are more or less okay. That money will come. So suppose you are dealing with a new party. It is always better to go for a ECC cover. Because you are safe. You will save yourself from blacklisting. Your money is safe. And you will come to know that this party is good.
So everybody will prefer this. And then what are the parameters which they ECC will check?
See, you have to apply for it. They may agree or they may not agree. They may reject your application also. That we don't know this party and we cannot give. So that you have to try. But normally they give you. I mean, you have to check what is the rate. I think it will be more than 80% case they will give you. Right? So it's a good scheme. The only thing that you have to give a premium. Slight cost you have to give. But in your case, it will be mandatory. For PSUs, it will be mandatory. You will have to go for ACs. Right? So now it is clear, 400 policy. I think. Okay, so good, it's good. We can cover one more topic now before lunch. Okay.
So what is deemed export?
What?
Deemed export.
Deemed export means if you are supplying goods to EOU, export oriented unit, deemed export is also 400 policy scheme.
Yeah, it is there in this policy.
Yeah. Yeah, deemed export means if you are supplying goods, before I tell you that, please try to understand, there is something I want to tell you. You already know what is SCZ, Special Economic Zone. You already know what is FTZ, Free Trade Zone, right? These are the zones where you can get anything without paying any duty and you can export anything, right? Export import, free trade area, right? Anything which is out of free trade area is DTA, domestic tariff area. Anything which is outside these zones is basically your DTA, domestic tariff area. Similarly, a EOU, export oriented unit, within the unit, it is not DTA, but outside it is DTA. So deemed export means any goods going from DTA to non-DTA. Now you have understood? Are you with me?
Means SCZ.
SCZ or free trade zone or EOU. Now what actually is the meaning of this? See, let me tell you, what is all these zones, what they are? Basically, these zones are custom protected zones. Custom is there. Anything which is going there is duty free. Right? And it is meant for export. Everything which is going there inside, you don't have to pay any duty, but it is meant for export. It is not for home consumption. So obviously any goods which is going from DTA to these zones, it becomes deemed to export. Right?
Also, but in deemed export, the goods doesn't fly out of India.
No. That's what I'm saying. See, I'm not saying. Now let me explain to you. What is the SCZ or free trade zone? Whatever activity is happening in this zone is for export only, right? So any raw material, any consumable which is going there is meant for export. So The purpose of making these zones is to reduce all the paperwork. It means anything which is going in need not attract any duties. Customer is sitting there. Get the goods cleared duty free in any case. Bring anything from anywhere in the world. Even if you want to have tea and teacups for your own purpose, but do not buy from India, buy it from Singapore. Ask. Or you want to use a fax machine, bring it from Singapore. You don't have to pay any duty, right? Correct? Why? Because all these activities are taking place for exports. Correct? But if you don't want to import from Singapore, because your Indian tea is good enough, why do you will import tea from Singapore? So you'll buy from India. So if you buy from India in this zone anything, for whatever purpose, as a raw material or consumable, or for machine or for maintenance, whatever you want, basically is nothing but export. Isn't it? See, you have both the options. Either you can import duty free or you can buy from DTA, domestic tariff area. So anything which you are buying from it, DTA, it becomes for the party who is supplying you becomes exports, isn't it? Am I right or wrong? Because ultimately, whatever is coming to that zone from DTA is going to help produce goods which are going to be exported. And in any case, whatever is incoming, whatever the value, and whatever is outgoing, whatever is the export, that matching has to be made. Right? There has to be some value addition. In SEZ, this value addition is minimum. But in FTZ, it is minimum 30%, 33%. Right? So it's okay. So the person who is supplying these goods should get benefit. Otherwise, you will not buy anything from DTA. You will buy everything from international market. Why you should buy? Anything which is coming is duty free. Right or wrong? But what you are buying from India is a duty paid, already duty paid. Or it is an Indian price. So that person should get the benefit of exports. That's why it is called deemed export. Correct? And that is also, this is very logical, very logical. Otherwise, nobody will buy anything from India. Even the notebook they will not buy from a stationery shop in India. They will get it from Singapore. Because it is coming duty free. Isn't it? Right? Clear?